All right, welcome. Today we are diving into a story that honestly feels like it was ripped straight from a movie set. Because it was. We're going to use it to unpack a really fascinating psychological concept about ego, art, and the danger of unearned confidence. So, this is the big question, right? What happens when the person who sounds the most sure of themselves goes up against the person who actually knows what they're doing? We've all seen it happen. The loudest voice in the room gets all the attention, but are they ever the wisest? We're about to find out what happens when that loud voice gets to call all the shots. To really get this, we first have to talk about something called the confidence paradox. It's a classic psychological bias, and trust me, it perfectly explains the drama that's about to unfold. And here's the culprit, the Dunning-Kruger effect. You've probably heard of it. The simplest way to put it is, you don't know what you don't know. Someone's lack of skill is so profound it actually blinds them from seeing their own shortcomings. This leads to this wild, over-the-top confidence. Keep this in mind because it's absolutely central to our story. And this chart just lays it out so clearly. Look at that. It's completely upside down. People with low confidence, their confidence is through the roof. Why? Because they can't see how much they have left to learn. Meanwhile, the real experts, the people with high confidence, they're actually more likely to be moderate, to underestimate themselves, because they know just how complex their field really is. Okay, so let's see this whole paradox in action. We're on a film set. Things are tense. The crew is frustrated, the director's on edge, and the lead actor is hitting a wall. And right into the middle of all this chaos, a disruption arrives. I mean, can you imagine? She just walks in and announces herself like that. This isn't just an entrance. It is a full-on declaration of her own importance. She's not here to help. She's here to be the savior, the one and only answer to a problem nobody asked her to solve. And this says everything. She literally gave herself a new name to escape being average. By throwing away Rhea, a name she decided was mediocre, she's building this whole new identity of being exceptional. It's our first big clue that her entire persona is completely manufactured. So what are her qualifications? Well, here they are. Acting coach, influencer, entrepreneur. You see the pattern here? These are titles that are often self-appointed. They're hard to measure. She's basically building her authority on a foundation that she designed, she built, and she approved. Wow. If you ever wanted a perfect sentence to describe the Dunning-Kruger effect, this is it. It's not just that she thinks she's good. It's that she believes her own personal self-assessment. Her algorithm is flawless. There is zero room for error in her mind. She is to herself the ultimate authority. And this is where that disconnect between perception and reality just becomes so obvious. She is so caught up in her own performance that she can't read the room at all. The crew is smirking at her, the actor is just staring, and she takes it all in as pure admiration. She sees respect confirming her own grand self-image. Okay, so this is where it all comes to a head. Her self-proclaimed flawless algorithm is about to collide with something it can't compute. Authentic, messy, real human emotion. The director calls action, and the actor, he just delivers. He's channeling his own recent real-life tragedy, and the performance is so raw, so powerful, that the entire set just stops. The air goes still. It's one of those rare moments of real, undeniable art. This is competence.
And then, cut! Just like that. The whole beautiful, fragile moment is just shattered. The voice of the female director just slices right through that silence. The spell is completely broken. That incredible raw emotion, gone. And Princess is right there, ready with her take. It's not about how good the acting was. Not at all. It's about the data. She says, today's audience doesn't want a man weeping. They want strength, chest out, own the frame. Basically, the algorithm says vulnerability doesn't sell. Audiences want a hero, a fighter, a simple, marketable image. But the actor, he's not giving up yet. He tries to defend his choice. He's like, I'm talking about my parents' death here. His grief is his strength. He's making this last desperate plea for the idea that real strength, true power, can actually live inside that kind of vulnerability. He's fighting for emotional truth.
So, who makes the final call? The director. And you know what she says? She doesn't debate him. She doesn't talk about the art. The director just looks at him and says it again. Trust the algorithm.
So on one side, you've got the actor. He's got this fire inside him, this instinct, a really clear idea of how the performance should feel. And them on the other side? external direction. And we're talking very specific instructions coming from a princess and a director. It's that classic conflict, right? An artist's gut feeling versus the demands of the job. You know, a standoff like that can't last forever. Something has to give. And that brings us to this huge turning point in the story, the point of surrender. The fight is just over. Not because they found a middle ground, but because someone just let go. He gives into the process. The arguments stop, and the work, well, it becomes a lot less about creating and a whole lot more about just following orders. And this just paints such a clear picture of that shift, doesn't it? The whole creative act becomes mechanical. He's not exploring a character anymore. He's literally adjusting the angle of his mouth. He's correcting his posture. His art has been boiled down to a checklist, and he just ticks every single box. And that, of course, leads us to the price of that compliance. Because the work on set might be finished for the day, but the real story is now about the internal cost of it all. We need to be super clear about the kind of tired we're talking about here. This is not that good, satisfying ache you get after a hard day's work. No, this is a deep, hollowing kind of mental exhaustion. It's the fatigue that comes from having to silence your own voice, your own instincts. So the battle on set is over for the day, but he carries the weight of that surrender right home with him. The job is done, sure, but the personal cost is really just beginning to sink in. You see, this kind of mental exhaustion, it's more than just being tired. It's a kind of pain. And like any pain, the first instinct is to find a way to numb it, to just shut it down, even if it's only for a little while. And this is the solution he reaches for. Just one glass of whiskey. It's so simple, isn't it? A tangible, physical answer for a deeply intangible internal problem. It's a simple act trying to quiet the really complex pain of a compromised artist. He doesn't think of his obedience as a weakness. Not at all. From his point of view, it's actually a really practical, strategic choice he's making for his career and, for a simpler life. And here it is. This is the core of his defense. He's consciously choosing to become an instrument for someone else to play. He's not surrendering, you see, he's just releasing control. He thinks it's a shortcut to success, a way to offload the burden of having to choose. You could even put a name on it, strategic compliance. He's telling himself a story, right? That he's just playing the long game. I'll bend the rules now so I can break them later. He's absolutely convinced this is a calculated move, not a surrender. But the boy, he is not buying it, not for a single second. His whole purpose in this conversation is to just shatter that well-crafted little story. He sees the actor's so-called strategy for what it really is, just a flimsy excuse to hide his fear. And there's the punch. The boy just calls him out directly. He reframes the entire argument. This isn't some brilliant strategy. It's a retreat. It's choosing to be small, to be invisible, so you don't become a target. It's about fear. And it's not a choice between success and failure. No, it's a choice between two states of being, a safe prison or a terrifying abyss. Let's break down this trade-off, because it's huge. On one side, you've got the prison of obedience. In there, responsibility just dissolves. If you fail, it's not your fault, right? You can blame the director, the system, the algorithm. You're not free, but you're also not guilty. On the other side is the abyss of freedom. Here, you are completely stripped bare. There's no one to blame. Every single failure is yours, and only yours. And this line, this just gets to the absolute heart of it all. The real reason people don't choose freedom isn't because they're afraid of failing. It's because they're terrified of the crushing, inescapable weight of owning that failure. So we get to the end of their conversation, but there's no resolution. There's no neat and tidy answer. The actor is just left there, contemplating this impossible choice. And this final image is just haunting. The actor is alone in the dark. The boy is gone, or maybe just silent now, and he's staring at a blank page, a perfect symbol for a future that hasn't been written yet, a future he now has to choose for himself. And we're left with this one last chilling thought from the boy. The chains of obedience. They're real. They rattle. You can feel them. But they don't accuse you. They don't blame you. And for so many people, that strange comfort is worth the price of real freedom.
Picture this. We're on a film set, but forget the Hollywood glamour. The air here is just thick with frustration. You can feel it. Something is just not clicking. And the tension,
You could cut it with a knife.
The crew is tiptoeing around in total silence. You got the director just staring at the monitors, totally detached. And then there's our actor. He's gripping his script like it's the only thing keeping him afloat. I mean, everyone is just wound so tight, just waiting for the snap.
It didn't matter what he did. If he stuck to the script, he got insulted. If he tried to be creative, he got contempt. If he just kept his mouth shut, they mocked him. And through all of that, he just finished the job. Even though he knew, deep down, the film was going to be a total dud.
After this absolutely disastrous film production, he doesn't see failure at all. Nope, he sees a profound personal triumph. He's telling himself, and anyone who will listen, that the whole ordeal didn't break him. It actually forged him. So what he does is he builds this really compelling narrative of just pure endurance. In his version of the story, he was basically a professional punching bag on set. He says he was insulted for following the script, then mocked for trying something new. And through it all, he tells himself he never cracked, not once, even though he knew deep down the film was a total imitation. So when the reviews finally came out, and they were brutal, calling him a puppet and a hollow shadow of a film, he didn't even feel a sting. And you might ask why. Well, it's because those words just confirmed what he already believed. The critics' judgment wasn't an attack to him. It was validation. So, here's the crucial part of his story. All that professional humiliation, that was a trial by fire. And by enduring it without losing himself, he thinks he transformed a career flop into a massive win for his character. This is the story he's sticking to. But that story doesn't just go unchallenged. So let's flip to the antithesis and watch how the boy systematically dismantles the actor's carefully constructed reality. And bam, with just one sharp, sarcastic question, the boy shatters that whole noble narrative. It's not a real question, of course. It's an accusation. He's calling the actor's entire story into question, instantly reframing it as this self-serving fantasy. And this slide just lays out the core conflict perfectly. Where the actor sees a moral victory, the boy sees complete evasion. What the actor calls discipline, the boy calls a cage. What looks like strength is unmasked as fear. And that noble sacrifice, it's revealed as pure self-deception. And this, right here, is the actor's noble lie, summed up perfectly. See, in his head, he wasn't just humiliated, he chose to endure it. And that little twist transforms his inaction into this virtuous, powerful act. Suddenly, he's not a victim anymore. He's morally superior. His ego is safe, well, for a little while, anyway. But here's the thing about stories. They kind of need an audience. And in this case, the audience just is not buying it. And that's where our second character comes in, the boy, who is basically a living, breathing challenge to the actor's whole carefully built narrative. And this just lays out the central conflict perfectly. You have the actor saying, my story about being virtuous is the truth. And then you have the boy looking him right in the eye and essentially saying, no, you've built a bedtime story to sleep on. Wow. I mean, think about that. It's not just an insult, it's a diagnosis. It's saying everything you think is real, it's just a cozy little story you tell yourself so you can sleep at night. The real reason you're so quiet is because you're terrified. So the actor tries to defend himself, right? He tries to frame it as this brilliant strategy. Like, I'll just bend the knee for now so I can have power later. But the boy completely calls him out. He says, you make excuses and call them strategy. You fold. You fold because it feels way easier to be small and agreeable than it is to be authentic and risk being attacked for it. So now he's cornered. He's got no logical comeback. So what does he do? He lashes out. He tries to just dismiss the boy entirely, saying he isn't even real. It's his last line of defense, and, funny enough, it's the thing that leads us right to the huge reveal of this whole story. And this is the question that just changes everything, right? If the body isn't a real person sitting across from him, then what in the world are we watching? Who has the actor been talking to this whole time? Well, the answer completely flips this thing on its head. This isn't some external debate. It's a deeply internal battle. The boy isn't an outside critic. He is a figment of the actor's own mind, a projection of a powerful, buried truth. It turns out the boy is the actor's authentic self. He's that voice of pure, undiluted identity, totally free from what directors or audiences or anyone else expects. He is the person the actor used to be, and maybe, just maybe, the person he could still become.
But the boy, he doesn't just defend himself. Oh no, he flips the entire argument right back on its head. When the actor says, "You're not real," the boy comes back with the most gut-punching question possible. Are you? He's attacking the very idea of who the actor thinks he is. And here's the real twist. The boy reveals that he's not just a critic, he's actually an aspiration. He is the raw, authentic self that existed before the actor started putting on a show for everybody else. He represents the very freedom the actor gave up just to get a little approval.
Oof, this line is just brutal. A facsimile, not even a real person, just a cheap copy of who you used to be, of someone more authentic. The boy isn't just calling the actor a liar here, he's calling him a complete forgery. So this brings us to the absolute heart of the conflict. The entire argument, back and forth, has been building up to this one single, kind of mind-bending question about what it even means to be real in the first place.
Yeah, all the accusations, all the defenses, all the insults and denials, that was all just the warm-up act. The final exchange isn't another attack. It's a philosophical checkmate that makes you question everything.
So here's the question everything hangs on. Who is more real? Is it the person who physically exists? The actor who is just going through the motions and performing for the world? Or is it the voice inside, the boy who might not have a body but holds all of the authentic truth? It's a fantastic paradox, isn't it?
Okay, so this is a really fascinating dialogue, but why should we care? Because this story isn't just about the actor and the boy. It's really about us. We all have an actor, right? The version of ourselves we put out there to get by. And we all have a boy, that inner voice that sometimes whispers and sometimes screams, all those uncomfortable truths we'd much rather just ignore. This dialogue is basically a blueprint for our own internal fights.
So what are the big takeaways from all this? Well, first, those bedtime stories we tell ourselves are incredibly powerful and, yeah, comforting. Second, our authentic self can often feel like an enemy simply because it challenges that comfort. Third, finding real authenticity starts with questioning the part we're playing. And finally, and this is the most out there idea, maybe that nagging voice we try so hard to silence is actually the most real part of who we are.
And that's where we land. This whole internal battle leaves us with one last, deeply personal question we have to think about. The boy asks the actor what lies he tells himself. So now I'm going to turn that question over to you. What's your bedtime story?